From Atlanta News First Plus, this is Sports Tonight.
Welcome into Sports Tonight, guys. Welcome into State Farm Arena as well. It's February the 2nd, Friday, and tonight, you already know the Hawks are playing on PeachtreeTV. They host the Suns tonight. They're on a 6-game homestand. This is game 4 of 6. And guys, I've got to say, you know, the Suns, they started the season slow because they had injuries, but they have since sped up. They've won 9 of their last 11. The Hawks, on the other hand, have won 2 in a row, which is a pretty big deal for them because they just haven't been able to get on a winning streak this season. But we heard from head coach Quinn Snyder pregame. Here's what he has to say about tonight's matchup.
There's probably a few synonyms that could apply. You know, maintenance. I think as very common, right? Guys come back from being out, and you look at the schedule, you see a back-to-back. I think that was the case with Bogey last year, the first part of the season, and I've had that situation previously with guys where it's literally been throughout the course of a year. I'm not suggesting that either, but I think in this case, that's also why you have a minutes restriction, so I think he's out there shooting right now. But that's usually, and not that I don't have input, but I'm very trusting and deferent to our health performance group, and we're trying to just make sure we're proactive on that and stay in front of it, and would anticipate him playing tomorrow.
Trae spoke after the big Lakers win, and somebody asked him essentially if, with everyone healthy, if this is what this team can actually play like. And he spoke about, sure, but you guys have got to be more consistent about it. Mm-hmm. How do you go about finding that consistency right now?
Well, I mean, I think we're in the throes of it, throughout the course of the season. Injury, you never want to point to something that sounds like an excuse. But that the other night, having a couple guys back and together, I think is helpful for this group. That doesn't always, dictate consistency either. You can be more consistent no matter who's out there on the court, and I think so. Depending on how we define that, right, that may not be our record as much as it is, our execution, and I've said that before. So the more we do it, it's kind of the more consistent we are. So every game, that's what we're looking at, and hopefully we'll continue to perform on that level. And I think the point being, it's taking it game by game, and really focusing on the next game. And if we can do that, I think we'll find that consistency. But it's not something you kind of hope for. It's something you have to do.
What kind of challenge does Phoenix present with their 3 scorers, especially without DeAndre and another guy that you usually use on some of the high-impact win guys? How does that make it challenging for you on defense?
They're unique because they're so efficient. It's not just that they have those weapons, and they've found a way to really complement one another. I think clearly Devin's, every year he's taken steps as a player, and it's a credit to, to his work ethic and his approach. He's one of the smartest players in the league. I think he understands the game at a level that is really unique, and when you pair that, with his ability, and playing the role he is now, I think he's able to involve other guys, and it shows what a great player KD is, that they're able to play off each other so well. It's not easy, to be quite frank. And as I said, their efficiency, whether it's shooting it from 3 or, they're the best mid-range team in the league. So they're capable of taking and making tough shots, and oftentimes it's difficult to make them miss. But that's the goal, as far as how you contest and how you play, and just making them more difficult as best you can. But I wish I had a perfect answer for it. So, I mean, you obviously have to be prepared to do different things schematically, defensively, and that becomes even more difficult when you have multiple weapons.
Coach, I'm almost over here, Coach. Sorry.
Go.
Mike is loud. Anyway, Coach, just to piggyback off of that, with Devin being voted in as a reserve by the coaches, maybe if you could just speak to the process that you go through when you're voting for reserves, considering that it's a challenge, a chore to pick those guys.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I could say, and I think it's probably true of all the coaches that vote. There's so many good players in this league, and to try to differentiate between guys is always difficult, and sometimes it's one of those responsibilities that you really don't want to have. But in Devin's case, I don't think that's a hard one. I think he's played at a level and has shown what he's capable of doing, and that's not to diminish any other decision, but I've seen him play for a long time and seen him continue to grow as a player, and every time he finds another level, and he's a impressive young elite player that can do almost everything.
Can you talk about the growth of Trae
Yeah,
Young?
Trae, to me, he's so unique, and I reference this frequently because I feel like it speaks maybe as much as anything is his willingness to take charges, and I think that's something that shouldn't be lost on people. That's he probably would get upset if I said he was 175. I don't know if he, whether he's 180 or 175 or whatever, 182. He's usually not as big as the guys that he's stepping in front of, and he's done those things not just throughout the course of a game, but at crucial times. So whether, he's got a reputation for making big shots, he is confident in his ability, at crucial moments, but he's also made big plays defensively. I think, I don't know where he is. I don't follow all the details statistically because, frankly, to me, I see what he's doing as a player more holistically, but I know he's, I don't know what, you guys can help me out, second or third or something in the league in steals at his position or whatever. He's not just scoring and passing, he's doing other things. And, he knows how to pass, and he can score. And I think he had a couple of stretches this year that, you just haven't seen in this league, with what he did, scoring and assists and where he is at this point in his career. And I know how much he wants to win, and that's another component. Our record right now, is not where we would want it. But, I think his play has just been at a really high level, and he's played winning basketball, and that's why I reference the charges. He's a unique guy, and I feel lucky to coach him.
Kind of going off that a little bit, then, were you surprised that Trae didn't make it on as a reserve for the All-Star game?
Of course, as his coach, and you always try to kind of remove your bias. That's why they don't let coaches vote for their own guys, right? But I think in his case, in trying to be objective, we talked about how, some of those decisions are clearly difficult. But you look at the body of work that he's done, and I wouldn't get into comparisons. I just think he's had an elite year. And, as I said before, to the extent that I wish our record was a little bit better, because I think that would, better reflect, the kind of year he has had. and I'm like I said, I'm proud of him and what he's done on the court.
Quinn, you talked about KD's brilliance and how it unlocks everything offensively for them. On the defensive side of the ball, he's playing small ball 5 for them. He's switching from Sabonis to Malik Monk to De'Aaron Fox. How big of a challenge is he on that side, and what have you seen on film that maybe even makes him stand out for that compared to the average top scorer?
Yeah, you don't really think of rim protection, I think, from KD. And I think that's probably because the focus, is more on, how gifted he is offensively. But that said, you just, you articulated it, that the impact that he has on the game with his length, his instincts defensively, he impacts the game defensively, in a lot of different ways. I think he's also got feel too, so that when he is off the ball, he's able to make plays.
And if you ask me, playing better at home has to be something the Hawks focus on. They're 10-13 in this building, and there's no excuse. This place loves the Hawks. It's very loud in State Farm Arena when they're here. So it's time to get in the winning column when it comes to home court advantage. We'll see what they can do tonight. But for now, reporting from State Farm Arena, I'm going to kick it back to Scott Pennyman, who's in the studio with more on what's going on today in the world of sports. Scott?
Well, pretty cool, right? Good report from Emily Gagnon over at State Farm Arena. Big one for the Hawks tonight, right? This is they've got a couple wins in a row, so I think it's important that they keep the momentum. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're definitely on the. I believe they're in the 10th or 11th spot in the playoffs right now. They're the bubble team in the East. They need every win they can get, and the Suns have been super hot. And you've got Devin Booker. Yeah, you've got Devin Booker who just dropped like 60 last week.
Yeah, and when you think about the Suns team too, I mean, just from just an offensive standpoint, this is one of the most explosive offensive teams in the NBA. When you look at just from top to bottom, Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, I believe, are 5 and 6 in the NBA in scoring and points per game. Bradley Beal has missed a big part of the season so far, but he's back into the mix. Since he's come back and become more adjusted to things, the Suns have really been on a roll. They're really, like I say, a high-level explosive team. When they're all healthy, when everyone's there, the Suns are probably one of the better teams in the NBA because of what they can do offensively, and that is sort of headed by Devin Booker, right? Devin Booker can attack from a variety of ways. Obviously, we all know about Kevin Durant and just the great player he's been in this generation. But I think what's crazy for him in this situation is that he doesn't have to be the number one guy. He doesn't have to have the burden on him because you have Devin Booker, you have Bradley Beal. So that's going to be a lot to stop for the Hawks, who I think struggle at times defensively. So I think this is going to be a huge test.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a boat race because these are two very high-scoring offenses. These are, they're almost always a good bet for 100 points each.
Yes.
And this is going to have to be a game where obviously you want the defense to clamp down, but how? How do you stop this Suns team if you're the Hawks?
I don't think I don't think the word is stop, because I think great offense in the NBA, you really don't stop, right? I mean, I think what you want to do is you want to be able to come up with the stops on defense when you need stops, which is normally in crunch time and in the fourth quarter, and just be able to come up, be able to match their intensity offensively, right? So that's tough to do because they have a lot of different weapons. They have a lot of different ways that they can punch you from an offensive standpoint. But as you mentioned, the Hawks do too. They have a lot of weapons. They have DeAndre Hunter back, who helps them from a 3-and-D standpoint. So I think this is a good test for the Hawks at this time. And these are the kind of games that you want at this point in the season, right? You want to face teams that challenge you so you can maybe see where you're at. Like I say, they've won 2 straight. That's nice. It's hard to call that a win streak.
If you can take this win, if you're the Hawks, this can be a statement win.
Yes. This can be one of these wins that you get and you feel really, really good about moving forward. So We'll see what happens. Look, they're right after us on right here. They're on PeachtreeTV tonight, Peachtree Sports Network. So you don't have to move anywhere. You can stay tuned to us right after this show. Slide right into the Hawks game tonight and watch some really fun NBA basketball. Here we go.
When will our boy get the respect?
Trae.
When?
I saw this all over like NBA.com today, and just it was shared a lot today on social media, and people were just in amazement that Trae could average, what was it, 27 points and 10 assists a game.
According to SportsCenter,
Yeah.
there have just been 3 instances of a player averaging 25 and 10, 25 points, 10 assists, without being named an All-Star. Michael Adams in the 1991.
Michael Adams,
1990, 1991 season. Trae Young in the 2022-2023 season, and Trae Young in the 2023-2024 season. What is going on?
Well, let me break a little bit of this down. So I think when you look at the game of basketball today, right? There's every team. It seems like around the NBA is loaded with the scoring guard, right? They have a really good scorer at the guard position, so it's really hard to make the All-Star team as a guard. Because
But he was third in the East. He was top 2. What are we doing?
it's just well, I get to the other part of that, right? So there's I mean, you have guys like Jalen Brown. I mean, there's almost every team has a really good scoring guard. So just it's hard enough to make the All-Star team at the guard position alone, right? But then you factor in the season that the Hawks have had so far, and that plays a role. Let's just be real. When your team is on the bottom half of the standings, sometimes those numbers ring hollow. Let me explain. So almost every team in the NBA right now has a guy who's averaging more than 20 points a game, whether you're a really good team or a really bad team. Because it's the NBA, there's a lot more scoring than what there used to be in the NBA. So pretty much every team has at least one player who's averaging over 20 points a night. What you have to decide is, are those 20-plus points a game, are they a winning 20 points a game? You get what I'm saying? So is that 27
Should
and 10
Trae
every
get
night?
punished because the Hawks are bad?
Yes, and I'll explain why. Yes, he should. And I'm saying that because when you're a star player of a team, it's more than just going out there and putting up big numbers game in and game out and losing 20-point games. What you have to be able to do is you have to be able to galvanize the guys around you. You have to be able to raise the level of your team around you. The Hawks have to be better. They have to be able to be a better team because Trae's talents, especially at the point guard position where he distributes the ball.
It's not just Trae, though.
Well, no, it's not
They
just
have
Trae.
DeJounte Murray. They have Jalen Johnson, who's having a breakout season,
I get
frankly.
what you're saying.
It's not just him.
It's
Why
not-
are we putting every single one of the Hawks' problems on, Trae Young's just not good enough?
Welcome to the responsibility of being a superstar player in the NBA. That's just what it is. When you're a superstar player in the NBA, whether it's fair or unfair, they're going to always look at you and say, why is this team not performing the way they should? But, however, if that team wins, you're also going to get the credit too. Because when you win a championship, just think about it. Think about the last few NBA champions. When the Bucks won the championship, who do we give credit to? Giannis.
But that team also had Drew Holiday. It had Chris Middleton.
That's true, but we know that because we watched the game.
The Hawks supporting cast isn't as good. Why are we putting that? Why are we putting the performance of other players simply on Trae Young?
Because I think what you want to see, Ellie, what you want to see is Trae Young take the next step and not just being a great player, but also helping the other players around him get better, right? Use your abilities to get guys open shots and be able to raise the level of the players around you, because that's what superstars in the NBA are able to do. That's normally what All-Stars are able to do.
All-Stars are not necessarily superstars.
I agree with that, but I think if you're on an All-Star team, right, most of these guys named to the All-Star team, not every single one, but most of them are
Is
guys.
Tyrese Halliburton a superstar?
I don't think Tyrese Halliburton is a superstar, but I think
Why
he's
was
a
he
budding,
number one in voting?
I think he's a budding superstar, right? Because with the year he's had, and the Pacers, they aren't bad in the standings right now either, are they?
No. They're firmly in a playoff spot.
Right, so they're firmly in a playoff spot. So I think those things matter. I think when people look at Tyrese Halliburton and what he's been able to do this year, I think they go, his performance has been spectacular, combined with he's made his team better. And that's what you're tasked with as being a superstar player. Your task is to not just make yourself look good, but to help the guys around you look good as well. And I think Trae hasn't done that enough. I know it's painful, right? Look.
I disagree. I disagree.
So just think about it, right?
It's a team sport.
It is a team sport. But I think what happens sometimes is in the NBA is, like I said, every team has a guy who's going for 20 points a game, right? So just think about your team. You're a Bulls fan, right? So think about
Unfortunately.
Zach LaVine, year in and year out, gets 20-plus points a game. He scores a lot of points, but it's a very empty 20 points a game because they lose. He gets a lot of 20-point games.
Because what's his supporting cast? It's Zach LaVine and a bunch of dudes.
So I think if you're an all-star player, I think just let me give you another example, right? So Donovan Mitchell, I'm a Cavs fan. Donovan Mitchell, the Cavs are firmly right now, they're firmly in the playoff, right? So the Cavs this year lost Darius Garland and they also lost Evan Mobley. Those are probably their second and third best players on their team. They got better when those guys went down because Donovan Mitchell raised his level, helped some bench guys who weren't normally used to getting a lot of minutes, get minutes, and he helped those guys play better even without two of his best players on his side. Those are the sort of things that you're expecting Trae Young to be able to do. So when we judge Trae Young about being an all-star, we're judging him against guys like Jalen Brunson. We're judging him against guys like Donovan Mitchell. Each one of those two guys has made their teams better this season, even when they've lost guys around them. That's not something that Trae Young has been able to do. I'm sorry, it's not fair.
We're gonna have to.
It's not fair, but
we've got 8 minutes. We're gonna have to agree to disagree. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I think you're wrong.
It's healthy conversation. I like it though. I like it.
Let's move to something even stupider.
Okay. LeBron.
Why? Why would they do this? Why would they trade LeBron James?
Well, so it's been out there like there's been different NBA insiders last couple of days that came out and said they believe that the Lakers are at least considering trading LeBron James before the trade deadline. And so there's a couple reasons. So there was so much talk about it that LeBron James' agent, Rich Paul, I know Rich a little bit. What's going on, Rich? Came out today and had to basically debunk those rumors and say, look, the Lakers are not going to trade LeBron and we are not going to ask for a trade. So there was a lot of smoke out there regarding a lot of different NBA insiders suggesting that this was a real possibility. And so I think when you look at where the Lakers are at right now, they're a 500 team. Even with Anthony Davis and LeBron James on the floor, they haven't looked like one of the upper echelon teams. They're sort of been going in the wrong direction. So I think they're kind of at a crossroads as an organization right now, right? You have LeBron, who 39 years old, is still really good, but he doesn't, once again, like we just talked about Trae, the guys around him, like he doesn't
LeBron
really
LeBron might be having the best 39-year-old season of all time. Let's put this in perspective.
Absolutely.
He's not what he used to be, and yet he's still, doing LeBron James things.
Absolutely. LeBron James, I mean, is out of this world what he's been able to do for a 39-year-old, without question. There are guys
okay. Let's look at the depth chart according to ESPN. You have center. You have Anthony Davis at center.
Yes.
LeBron at power
and
forward.
Anthony Davis has been healthy most of this season. He's only missed like 3 or 4 games, so he's been healthy.
Point guard D'Angelo Russell.
Who's played well?
Shooting guard Austin Reeves.
They love Austin Reeves.
Shooting forward Taurean Prince.
Yeah, so Taurean Prince, he's a good glue guy. Look, that's not
Taurean Prince. Oh.
See, I think the situation that they're in that's kind of painful is the fact that they need LeBron James and Anthony Davis to be alpha dogs for that team. And I think right now they're
it's
not
almost
the
like it's those two and a bunch of dudes.
Talking about the Lakers. Somebody say something about the Lakers.
There we go.
What we talking about?
Oh boy, you're back.
Let me know.
The Lakers considering trading LeBron James.
Ooh,
it's not happening.
Cannot. Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. In fact,
why are we even
Rich Paul
discussing
came out.
this?
He came out today. He came out today. He said not going to happen. I think D'Lo And Austin Reeves against the Celtics last night said, y'all better not trade me. That's what I got out of that game. Y'all better not trade me. But something's wrong with this team as far as chemistry goes. They're one game under, I think, or they're even at 500.
They're 500.
500 exactly, 25-25. Something's got to change. They got to wake up. They can't run around losing to teams they should beat and beating teams they should lose to. That's just my piece. I heard Lakers had to come over here. But, go Hawks. Go Hawks.
Alan, that's our resident.
That's our Atlanta News first anchor, Alan Devlin, our resident Lakers fan.
He's all about everything that are Lakers. But look, I'll make this quick since we only have a few more minutes. Look, I think for just the position that they're in right now, I think it's something that they are considering, right? Because the Lakers are an organization that's all about maybe, that's the reason I think they won't trade them. Because they are all about their star power. They rode Kobe until the end of his career until he did retire. So I think they're going to do the same thing with LeBron James here. But I think people from the outside and insiders around the NBA just look at LeBron James as probably their most prized asset and saying moving forward, if you do trade him, you could probably get the most for him. Especially if you're not going to seriously contend for a championship this season.
That said, my guess is Darvin Ham goes before LeBron James does.
Of course. I mean, the NBA head coaches are always the scapegoat, so of course. Yeah.
College basketball.
Hey, so Georgia Tech and UGA with some big games this weekend, right? So Georgia Tech, they'll be at NC State. They're coming off that huge win at home against North Carolina, number 3 North Carolina. That was probably so far the defining win so far in the short career of Damon Stoudemire as the head coach at Georgia Tech. So
Georgia Tech's 3-8 in conference play. All 3 have come at home against ranked teams. What is this team?
Well, I think
is McCamish Pavilion just spooky now?
I think they're just trying to find themselves. I think they're a team that's trying to find themselves right now. And Coach Stoudemire, I think he expressed frustration last week at a team that's trying to find themselves. So I think that's kind of where they're at right now. There'll be some ups, there'll be some downs. This past week was some ups. I mean, huge win against North Carolina, but there's been some downs too. So I think they're just a team who's just trying to find out their identity, find out who they are, find their direction. And when they do that, we'll see. As for UGA, I was out there this past week. They had a crushing loss against Alabama in a game that I thought they controlled for about 30 minutes. I mean, they were firmly in control of that game, had a double-digit second-half lead. I think they were up 14 in the second half.
And then Mark Sears said, no.
Yeah, the wheels fell off, and they got hot. Alabama got hot in the second half. They started hitting their shots. They came up with some stops, and, boy, that was a game where I was right there. If I wasn't there to watch it, I wouldn't believe how things just came apart for them. I mean, they went cold down the stretch. But more than anything, Alabama went hot, and they lost that lead. And I think that'd be one of those games where if they don't make the NCAA tournament, that'll be one of those games that they'll look back and go, we should have had that one.
All right, real quick, what's on your mind?
Hey, look, what's on my mind is, once again, big one for the Hawks tonight, right? This has been one of those days where we're kind of all over the Hawks and what they have going on. So this is really a big one, though. I mean, I'm not going to call any regular season game necessarily a big game because it's only January. But Quinn Snyder talked about...
There are 82 of these things.
Right, there's 82 of them, and this is just the next one that's on the schedule, so I get it. But Quinn Snyder talked about, from the standpoint of, these games before the All-Star break are kind of crucial because some of these teams get kind of lazy before the All-Star break. So if you can win some of these games right now going into the All-Star break and get some momentum, you can come away from the break feeling a lot better about yourself. So the Hawks, once again, tonight on PeachtreeTV, also the Peachtree Sports Network. As a matter of fact, don't even turn anywhere. Stay right here.
Don't touch that dial.
As soon as this show is over, we'll go right into the Hawks pregame show, and then Hawks and Suns at 7:30.
All right, that's going to do it for Sports Tonight. I'm Ellie Parker for Scott Pennyman. Stay right here for Hawks Suns.
Don't go anywhere.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.